Well, welcome to the Virtual Physiatry Mentors. I'm Dr. Sheena Buba.
I'm Dr. Benisha Williams.
And together we are Shanisha. Yeah, that was on point. So today our guest is Dr. Jonathan Reisman. He is a current PM&R resident at University of Minnesota, and we are super excited. He has been working on this project called FOAM. It stands for Free Online Access Education or Medical Education, and he's bringing it to our PM&R world. So we are super excited to hear what all this is about. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Your
show's
A little bit of a delay.
I'm frozen. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm frozen on my end. I'm not for sure if you guys can hear or see me.
We can hear and see you, B.
Okay, good. Well, I'm just going to keep talking like I can hear and see you.
Okay.
I can hear you, I can't see you. So John, welcome. We appreciate you. Welcome to our foam party. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about where you're from, where you grew up, where you did your training at.
Okay, well, thank you for having me on. You're both doing a really great job and adding so much to our field, especially during this time where there was kind of a vacuum of things going on. So it's been really exciting, and we've all been benefiting a lot from your hard work. My name is Jonathan Reisman. As was mentioned, I'm a third-year PM&R resident. I grew up on the East Coast in New Jersey, a suburb outside of New York City, and I went to school there. It was a Hebrew school, so we had our Hebrew kind of classes until lunch every day, and then the state curriculum until 5 o'clock in the evening. And that really started at a young age and went all the way through 12th grade. The reason that I mention it is just because I've kind of always been in school all day long, and we did learn in more than one language. And so it sort of always forced us to think about things in more than one way. If I was here, there are some words that I understand a bit better in Hebrew than I do in English, even though English is my native tongue. So if I'm thinking of a certain subject specific word, I have to think of the right English word for it. I do think it's kind of relevant for what I've been doing here in FOAM PM&R. Afterwards, I did college at Yeshiva University in New York. For anyone that might be familiar, there's a PM&R program, Einstein Montefiore. So their university, their undergrad is called Yeshiva University. I was a psychology major when I was there. I was always on the fence between, I wanted to be a doctor growing up, and then in college, I got really interested in psychology. So I was thinking of doing psychology, and then, but ultimately went with medicine. And very happy that I did. I took a gap year and then started at Rowan in New Jersey, Rowan University School of Osteopathic Medicine. And it was really a perfect fit for PM&R. It's a massive PM&R presence down there. There's 20 or so students applying PM&R every year there. And that's been going on since before I got there. And now I moved a little bit to the middle of the country, to Minnesota, and our program's really awesome. So been enjoying it.
Yeah, great. You guys did a great job on our Instagram takeover. That was really fun to see Minnesota and kind of see what you guys are all about there. So tell us a little bit about what exactly FOAM is, and give us a little bit about the history of this movement.
Sure. So FOAM Ed is a movement. It stands for Free Open Access Medical Education, and it's primarily been used in the emergency medicine world. And when I say it's been used, I mean, if you speak to a resident there, they will, an emergency medicine resident, they will likely share that they do almost all of their learning through FOAM education. Any residents that I've spoken to, there's tons of literature published in journals on it. It's spilled over directly into the critical care world, but now anesthesia, peds. I came up with the line FOAM PM&R, which is kind of a simple idea, but there's foam CC, foam, pediatric foam, foam tox for toxicology. So that's something that's already been going on in the other fields. And the way it goes supposedly is there was a conference in Europe and they were talking about a whole bunch of things in education, and a couple of people were analyzing a lot of these new resources that are popping up rapidly. And the idea in foam is as follows. We have nowadays information spreading so much more quickly through the internet, podcasts, Zoom calls, Instagram, Snap. I mean, you probably wouldn't have included Instagram in a foam conversation a year ago, but now it's there. And you know, it's just a matter of time until there's another thing that is being included. And really what the idea is that if you have a group of people that have a shared interest, so in our case, PM&R, we have identified a group of people, we're all interested in the field, and what would happen is we would organize all of the important resources that should guide our conversation. So that would look like a list of the podcasts that you should listen to if you want to stay up to date, a list of important Twitter accounts, a list of important Instagram accounts, journals, so on and so forth. And then what I have there on the site right now is not exactly the end goal product. It's hopefully going to take us there, but it's, I think, the really good starting point for PM&R. Essentially what we do is we organized how we want to have this conversation, so that imagine if you were treating a patient and you weren't exactly sure if you should try one approach or another because of something in their medical history that you haven't encountered before. And you say, you know, I'll be right back, I have to go look something up. And you pull out your phone, you go on Twitter, and you can ask your clinical question. And you, the physiatry world is not particularly large relative to other fields, but our Twitter is already moving very quickly, and someone will notice it. And sort of the way the story goes is, and how this became really popular was there was an article in the New England Journal of Medicine that there was an error in the article, and somebody online realized the error, came up with this whole nice equation to prove it, and tweeted it. And then later on that year at a conference, they sort of started this, that same group of people that were important there, they started that same Twitter conversation at the conference. So in short, we have all of these different resources. We organize them all so that we know that we're all participating in the same conversation, and then the information spreads much more quickly.
It's amazing. And I think specifically during this time with COVID, you know, we are seeing a large amount of patients that we are treating with post-COVID syndrome. I just made that up. Because it's just a constellation. Sounds like a thing, right? It has such a constellation of symptoms. I have 7 patients right now, and all of them are so different. And like, you know, I'm bouncing stuff off of my colleagues. I'm like, hey, what have you tried? Have you guys done this? Have you guys seen this? So I think it's so relevant right now. I'm so excited that you did it. So tell us why you decided, when and why did you decide to do it for PM&R? Sure.
So we have in our program at the University of Minnesota, we have probably similar at Baylor, where you trained, in other locations as well. We all give yearly seminars in addition to other talks at various intervals. And I, when I went to Rowan, I had about an hour-long commute, which in medical school is not ideal. And I started there in 2014, I finished in 2018. So podcasts were already a big thing at that point. But I really needed to use podcasts, and I needed to find podcasts that I enjoyed, but also would benefit from educationally. And I noticed that it was a little hard for me to find PM&R podcasts that were kind of satisfying what I was looking for. You know, to put it simply, there were a lot of PM&R podcasts, but just not specifically what I was looking for. And in over the course of my year, my last year here in Minnesota, as I was looking into them and seeing some more podcasts popping up, I got really interested in medical podcasts and where podcasts play a role in education and in FOAM Ed. So I gave my seminar on podcasts in medical education, And I use that as an example for foam education. But as I mentioned before, there's Twitter, there's Instagram. And in doing the research into podcasts and into other foam ed resources in PM&R, it became clear to me that there were a lot more good resources that I was not aware of. And a big thing is just having a community to share what's out there. And I think that if we asked every single physiatrist in the country, tell us what you like, we'd get an amazing, amazing list together. So I had in my mind, like, wow, that would really be cool to kind of get this going in PM&R and see, you know, what this could do for us as a field. But it was more of, I guess, like a dream, because it wasn't really something you have that much of an opportunity. You know, I don't know how to build a website. It's not something I ever did before. But then once COVID came, our program decided to make a virtual rotation for medical students. And we put a lot of work into creating content, and I had in mind some other content that I wanted to make at the same time that I ended up making on YouTube. And I realized, I was like, you know what, like, lots of people make websites, I can make a website. And, you know, so I learned how to do it, and I just, you know, put in some late nights and kind of designed the project. And, you know, here we go. I launched it about a week ago. And I would definitely say I'm blown away by the reception of it thus far. So I think hopefully, you know, it can become a real positive contribution. But again, ultimately, as I've said before, it is not due to my own doing, because nothing on that site is me. It's all the work that everybody else is doing, and it's just an effort to, you know, bring it all together.
Yeah, I think that's great, because like you said, that there's so many different resources. We just need one area where everything's all together, like exactly what you said. So thank you. So it sounds like, you know, foam is beneficial, really can help medical students, residents, fellows, and even attending. So is there a platform or a way that, you know, we can all get involved?
Sure, absolutely. So if part of what's on the site, as you know, if you go on, you'll see that there's it's broken up by podcasts, Twitter, Instagram, the other types of resources. In my mind, what I hope as the field continues to progress over the next few years, and hopefully as the team that I'm putting together builds, I think that because PM&R splinters a little bit depending on what specialty you go into, you know, if you go into stroke or TBI or pain, I think that it would be great if we could get a list of stroke resources, pain resources, traumatic brain injury resources. And that's one thing that's slowly in terms of the design, but I think that a big part, in order for that to be even useful, we have to be doing more on Twitter, which I don't think we're doing quite, we're you know, there's Twitter accounts popping up left and right, and I think that's because of coronavirus. But the main thing right now, in addition to some of the, you know, more typical type of councils that, you know, for leadership that we will have, like education and things like that, the first thing that I'm really trying to tackle is a new type of journal, actually. So it's called the Asynchronous Journal of Physiatry. Asynchronous learning sort of goes hand in hand with the foam education idea, and that's that a lot of learning and structured learning doesn't have to happen in one sitting. So imagine a journal in 30 years from now. Do we think that a journal in 30 years from now is still going to be paper that gets delivered to your house by a mailman or mailwoman? You know, there still might be, and my goal is not to replace journals, and you know, they're super important and we need them and we need to constantly build upon them. But I think that there are a few things that we can improve. And one area that I really feel pretty strongly about is how we approach the topic of case reports. And I think some people love case reports, some people don't love case reports. But it's actually very difficult for us to communicate a lot of our cases. Journals, the way they currently are, do not have more than 1 or 2 case reports at the back of them. Mm-hmm. And so in short, I also, there was a tweet a tweet the other day. It was really funny. It was something like, if you want to know why the second paragraph of my discussion is, a long tangent on whatever, ask the third editor who made me do it or something like that. And, a case report, if you had a really interesting case that you thought people needed to know about for clinical reasons, you could probably deliver the message in 30 seconds if you were talking. This is what the story was, this is what happened, this was the outcome, it was really surprising, does anybody have any more information on that? And I think that there's a barrier. I think we all have lots of cases that are really interesting that we want to write up, but we just don't have time to do it in the way that we classically have been doing so. So that's one goal with that journal there. But then the other thing is kind of touching on what I mentioned about written case reports and written journal articles. There's a lot on YouTube. There's a lot on Facebook Live. There are a lot of really good resources, and the technology is more than out there to make an evolving journal that if someone was to publish a study, there's no reason why it should take 3 months to hear what somebody's question was on it and then maybe get an answer. We can, using technology that's readily available, allow for ongoing evolving dialogue within that journal text itself. So that's sort of that. So your question specifically was how attendings, fellows, residents can get involved. We're building a team of content specialists. So from somebody that's been in the field for a while that knows a lot more than I do, they would have a little bit more of the reviewer role and specialty role. And then, fellows, residents, students, depending on where you're at and depending, if you're really good at something, really passionate about something, there's lots of different roles that we need in terms of building and putting this together.
I just think the whole thing is amazing. Sheena and I have this conversation often about like how technology, social media has really changed education and medicine in the last, even from when we were in residency. Like we tried to get our program to be more involved in social media, and we kind of got a little bit of a pushback, right? And I think some programs probably are still getting pushback about, just not having that control, but it's out there. And I think people just need to ride the wave and go with it or get left behind because that's what's happening. Because it's moving so quick.
Yep.
Yeah. The thing, when I was applying to residency, so my application was put together in 2017. I graduated in 2018. Our school told us, shut down your social media if you still have it, as we were applying. Like it was viewed as a burden that will at best like go unnoticed and at worst be the reason you don't end up matching. And to the point now that we have conversations like, if you don't have any social media account, what are you hiding? It's almost more of a eyebrow raiser if you're not on social media right now. Right. So, definitely there. The other thing is, on a positive note, with building all of these different technologies for how we can share academic medicine, search engine optimization, or SEO as it's referred to, favors time on the market. Fortunately or unfortunately. So if you make a PM&R podcast, if you can see, if you type in PM&R on your phone and in the podcast app, if you type in PM&R, you'll get the first things that will populate on your screen are going to be old podcasts from years ago that aren't even updated anymore. But it's just when did you do it? And that's one thing that gets factored in. So like you said, do it or get left behind. The longer you wait, it's just the algorithm will just push you down.
No, I highly encourage people who are medical students, who are residents, even us as attendings, to try to get involved with this, because I think this is something that you can contribute to. I think it looks good on your CV. I think it's something that you can talk about and be passionate about when you are trying to interview for residency or you're interviewing for a job. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think this is, when John had reached out to Sheena and myself and showed us that we're totally blown away, please go to the website and check it out. And we will pin it. Sheena we put it in the group message below, and then we will tweet it out and put it on our Facebook and Instagram page as well.
No, you're gonna say. No, I was thinking that idea right there is super important. I'm glad you mentioned that, because part of what I have on the site is the Twitter analytics. that show, with an algorithm who's been doing what. It's not meant to make it a competition of, this account's better than that account, but PM&R is a big sports, sports area. Whether or not you go with, whether or not you, well, there is this idea in education now of gamification as as positive, behavior motivation. But besides for that, we have whatever field in PM&R you go into, you probably like sports to some extent, and maybe you've played or you're just a fan. And there was this book and movie called Moneyball that was out not too, a few years back, and it kind of changed sports entirely using analytics and a real new way of looking at data to see performance. And one thing, we're on your show already, so to plug your own show, you already have your audience listening. But one thing that I've really enjoyed about the work that you're doing is that you're if I understand correctly, you are fellowship trained in private practice, and you're not officially occupying an academic physiatry role the way somebody would imagine that looks. But if you look at the analytics, you are performing as high, if not higher, in terms of medical education when you look at the actual data and impact of what you're doing. So when we look at designing a journal of the future, which I hope will not only be awesome for PM&R, but impact the way other fields approach academic medicine and scholarship, we know that there's we've all been in an office where we see out of the corner of our eye a stack of journals that are still in their shrink wrapping. And and so you can get published in a really prestigious journal, but that doesn't mean your work led to as much as you were hoping it would. And with using this data, we can hopefully improve and build upon the excellent work that's already being done. One way that I hope to contribute to that is, I understand we mentioned before, 1 or 2 case reports can be published in a journal. You can't make the entire journal a piece on case reports, but there are probably way more than 1 or 2 cases that are important for people to hear about. And the AAP, they have their essay writing contest that they've announced for, one of the topics is experience with COVID-19. And I've already been working with the AAP, seeing what I'm trying to offer with the Asynchronous Journal of Physiatry. The internet is a very large space. We can put as much into it as we want. So while their contest was originally going to feature however many articles they were planning on publishing, now working together, we're going to be able to publish a lot more of those essays that people have been writing, which we're both the AAP and myself are really excited about, because they're probably really good essays. And we would hate the idea of somebody having an amazing, important experience, spending all the time writing it, applying it, and then no one reading it. But now this is another area where we can get a lot more people to read it.
Right, and it can help people, and that's what we're all in it for, is to ultimately help our patients, right? So
Sure.
This is
mind blown. Yeah, this is awesome. Like,
why
did it take so long?
I know. We just think you're amazing, and we are just so proud of what you are bringing to the field. And I just know you're going to continue to do great things for the field, because you love PM&R, and that's the same thing with Sheena. Like, we love being rehab doctors. We love working with each other. So this is really was the perfect avenue for us to contribute. So
yeah, we just love spreading the word, love telling everyone about our field. So
we love telling everyone that they picked the wrong field. Yeah. The best field.
Ortho. Why did you go to ortho? What?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of, yeah. No, I'm
I was
sorry.
going to say, if anyone has any questions, please drop below and we'll direct it at John. So what were you going to say, John? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was probably going to share just similar kind of stories with, friends that have gone into other fields or areas, and then they learn about PM&R afterwards, and it's just kind of awkward.
I know. I have the pleasure of having internal medicine residents rotate with me when I'm doing consults, and they, you know, they don't really know what PM&R is, and by the end they're like, "This is amazing," because I teach them what they want to know. Like, hey, I'm like, I'll teach you about money. I'll tell you how to bill. I'll tell you what I get paid to bill, because I think so many, you know, Sheena brought that up. Like, we're not very transparent about that across the field, but I think it is important for attendings to teach you how to bill and to tell you how much you are making when you are billing, because that just so you know how to make a living at the end of the day.
Yep.
So, yeah, they enjoy it.
Yeah, it's not an area where people always feel comfortable bringing up, certainly as the learner. You know, you don't want to come across that you're only interested in money, but obviously it's just a part of the business.
Absolutely, it absolutely is.
Yeah, you can just, you know, if you're afraid to ask, like, just straight up, how much do you make, or, you know, what did that, you know, how much did you make off of that procedure? You can just, you know, ask them, you know,
yeah,
just how did you code this? You know, can you tell me a little bit about how, you know, the billing and coding of this, you know, this procedure or that?
Yeah. Is this an RVU? How many RVUs is this? You know, I think it's something very important. They told us in fellowship to start really paying attention to that, like your last 6 months, because you need to know how many RVUs you're able to generate. So when you go to a job, you're like, hey, I'm able to,
you know, your pace.
I'm full speed. Exactly. You can know your pace. So it is something that is very important. And maybe we'll talk more about that next week.
Next Saturday. All right, John, is there anything else you want to tell us about foam that we haven't touched upon?
No, I think that's pretty much all there is to it. It seems like this really crazy concept, but it's sort of simple. There's a lot of different cool resources. Let's get them together. Let's have a better discussion with each other, and, you know, just collaborate.
Yeah, and I think, like, we've all been doing this a little bit, like, in our small little groups. Like Benicia and I have mentioned, like, we have a WhatsApp group with all the residents that we, you know, graduated with, and, you know, some of the PGY 3s and 2s, and we're always talking about different cases we come across or different resources, and I'm sure other residency programs are doing the same thing. And so it's just finding that one place that we can put it all together.
To collaborate that.
Student doctor is not the best.
Right, because, you know, I have this idea. I'm going to throw it out there. So if anyone's listening, let me know if you want to try it, because I'm telling you, I have all these patients that have critical illness myopathy with COVID. And I'm like, I was thinking last night, I was like, I wonder if anyone's put a TENS unit on any of these patients to just stimulate their muscles while they're laying there for weeks at a time. Just prevent. Someone should try it. Let us know how you do it, if it helps. Maybe I'll throw it on some of my patients. Maybe I'll make it a program at my hospital and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely all seen in PM&R times when so much of our field is so unique that there's just not these multi-center studies with thousands of patients that, you know, so that's one reason also why, you know, I do think it's important for us to be able to share our patient stories, because if somebody out there did put a TENS unit on their patient and it went well, and your patient's not doing very well, you know, we obviously want to provide evidence-based medicine, but when we weigh the benefits and the risks of something, the more anecdotal evidence that we have, you know, it's a hot topic nowadays. What, you know, with hydroxychloroquine and everything, whatever you make of whatever you want to make of that, but ultimately the data is still empowering. It's better to know what people have done than to not know what they've done, and then you know, you're a doctor, you get to choose if you think it's appropriate.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question.
Right, we got some questions. Yeah. So another forward thinker, Ben Franklin. Don't think it's the same one, but hey, John, how do you see med students contributing to FOMED, the PM&R website, and the mission?
So med students play a massive role. And the reason for that is I'm not particularly old, but I'm a millennial. I'm 32. But I never even considered downloading TikTok onto my phone. Like, it's not a thing. I don't have Snapchat, and I had Instagram on my phone for like 10 years and just never really used it. And then in the last 6 months, I was like, you know, I really need to start using this. We need to innovate, and med students are there's every few years there's a significant change in technology. If you grew up in one 5-year period, you had a Walkman. 5 years later, you had a Discman. 5 years later, you had an initial MP3 player. Then you had an iPod. So medical students,
you had a pager. Let me know, because I had a pager in high school. Boom.
Nice. Do you still use it?
I got rid of the day I was able to give away my pager as a fellow, I threw it away.
There you go. So to begin with, medical students innovate and have amazing ideas that other people may not have. So that's one, and know-how. That's another thing. 2 or 3 is medical students know a lot of things. And just because you're a medical student doesn't mean you don't know a lot. Medical students, depending on what rotation they're on, maybe not so much in their first or second year of medical school, but medical students, I remember when I was a medical student on PM&R rotations, we round in the morning, afternoon, I'm on PubMed for 5 hours, trying to solve the world's mysteries of our patients on the floor. And every now and then you come up with something, really great. The other thing is that I am going to be releasing a list of positions that we're looking to fill. But one thing that I've actually been enjoying about not having the list out yet is I don't want to stifle people's talents and creativity by saying I'm looking for this. If I never thought in my mind to put down I need somebody who's a painter. If you know PM&R and you're a painter, but if somebody sends me an email, hey John, I want to contribute to the site. I really am. Look at my painting work. Be like, great. Like we can use your talent. So I think that anybody that is passionate, no matter where you are in your life or education, you have talents and skill sets that we can build off of. And like I mentioned, you know a lot of stuff. You know a lot more than you give yourself credit for when you're a medical student. So as far as help with writing content, finding content, reviewing content, marketing, designing, or anything else you can think of, and honestly, even just participating is important. Getting more PM&R doctors to start using Twitter, and just on that note, I publish the PM&R Twitter statistics every week, and this past week we doubled. I just posted, we doubled our impact score, and what that means for anybody that's not aware is anytime you send a tweet, it gets read by a certain amount of people. This algorithm that we're using, it pays attention to who your audience is. So if your audience is a physician, it's a greater influence than if your audience is not made up of a physician. But the other thing there also is that our conversation on Twitter, while it's growing, we're still not doing so much PhomEd clinical talk with it. We're sharing a lot of important PM&R concepts and ideas, but I still don't see as much, hey, does anybody know a good type of therapy that would be good for X, Y, or Z? Or, in your case, like what you mentioned, has anybody considered using a TENS unit in these critical illness myopathy and then using that to, expand into more conversation? So any efforts and talents or skills or anything, reach out to me and we'll find a way to put your passion to use.
Great question. Got a few more. Sierra asks, what is a good way to put social media on your CV or application?
So that is an excellent question. There was an article, I can share it. There was an article that talks about social media scholarship in university hiring and tenure decision-making. And now they are going to be looking at and they already are looking at social media scholarship in making these decisions. Right now I'm a resident, and eventually I hope to be a fellow. I'm pursuing pain. And then after that, I want to get a job, whether that's academic, non-academic, some sort of mix in between. And at some point, I know that not that what I'm doing for money, but or just for what type of job I get. But let's say I want to do a certain type of research. I really want to research foam education and its impact. Let's say, well, if I don't work on this right now, then when I am applying for that job and I say I'd like you to put in 4 hours on Wednesday afternoon for me to do research, and they'll say, well, what research have you done? And so I can say, go to foampmr.com and you'll see what I've done. And anything that you do on social media, as long as it is scholarship, it is valuable and promotes our field. So as far as where to put it on the CV, I have to admit, I'm not, I would ask your either advisor, depending on where you're at, ask your advisor for residency applications, to get the official answer. But honestly, I think that one thing that's super exciting about this topic of foam education, I was having this discussion with my program director the other day, is that the rules are not written right now. I think we are writing the rules as we're speaking. The Instagram takeovers that the virtual physiatry mentors are doing, what PM&R scholars are doing, hopefully if foam PM&R is successful, what it will establish, we're going to dictate what to do for it. So that's an exciting opportunity. So it is a question as to where to put it. At the you cannot go wrong with just being very specific and honest with what it was. I just say what it is that you did. When you apply on ERAS, they make it very simple for you. Whether it's a poster, whether it's a case report, whether it's anything, it kind of just goes in one spot. So you don't actually end up having to put it in one specific section.
To answer your questions here, I actually don't think you necessarily need to put it on your CV because PACEs are going to likely Google you and it will pop up on the interwebs.
Yeah, I know everyone does it differently. So I'm speaking not for like necessarily medical students or residents, like when you're applying for medical school or PM&R residency or fellowship, but like out in the real world, I actually do have a section in my resume for like social media, like a social media section. And there, I don't obviously have put my personal accounts on there, but I have like my LinkedIn and my Twitter, which is more, academic, not academic, but more like PM&R based. And then virtual physiatry mentors will be on there, and then you can even if you contribute to foam PM&R, you can just say, and also contributor to foam PM&R, and that's just like a talking point for in interviews and stuff. They'll be like, oh, what's foam PM&R? You can kind of bring that up, and I think that it will look good.
I like it, and to add to that, you could probably put it like at the top if you really wanted to do it, because I know on my CV, like, have my name, I have my email, my phone number, and you could even probably just pop it right there if you need it to. But yeah, that's a good question. I have it. I'm gonna put it on my card actually too. My link.
That's a good point. The thing is that depending on what it is that you're doing, I think also could dictate where on your CV it would go. If you're in a leadership role, if you're with we're going to have a few leadership positions that need to get filled, then you would put that under leadership. And I was the vice president of whatever. If you are giving presentations on YouTube that we're then going to feature as the talks that you gave, then that would go under oral presentations. There's so much going on in Zoom right now. We're going to have to figure out where we account for all of this. Everyone's going to have Zoom on their resume. So it's really, I think, kind of custom to you, and
yeah,
that's that.
All right, Hayden has a good question. So he's asking, what do you think the ideal platform is for the asynchronous journal? Do you see that all on the website, or a combination of all social media to spread things as much as possible?
And you guys should definitely link up Hayden and John, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm liking the questions.
Like-minded. Yeah, you guys are like-minded. Hayden takes care of our podcast, and he.
Oh, nice.
He holds us down. Thanks, Hayden.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's a phenomenal question. As of now, tomorrow, the first thing we have scheduled for the asynchronous journal is the AAP essays that that are being written. As of now, those are going to go on the website, but the technology is actually going to change it a little bit. We'll always have the website as kind of a landing spot. So you can imagine on the website, you could have an article, and then you can have a video embedded right after it. It could be a lot of different multimedia on it. And as I alluded to before about the breaking things up by category, stroke, TBI, all these different things. I mentioned that I want to really be a big part of changing the way we present case reports. If we had 150 case reports to talk about one month, no one is going to sit through and read through 150 case reports. But if we had a table of contents that you could that you know was coded properly. You could just go based on the subject of your interest. So I'm interested in pain, so let's see the pain case reports, and you just click on it. You don't have to start filtering through, scrolling through. It'll take you to exactly where it is. And then on the internet, there is this, a lot of people don't necessarily know what it is, but there is this symbol that kind of looks like a tilted Wi-Fi symbol, and it's a catch button for social media things. So there are ways to curate and organize exactly things that you are interested in. So what we're actually working on is a customizable journal that will give you, the participant, what you want. You don't have to every month go in and say, I'm interested in this, this, or this. You'll be able to just receive automatically, like a subscription, customized to you, what it would give you. And if, you know, again, just the question of how many different people we can get to help, because there's only, you know, there's only so much I can do by myself. I need a lot of people to help me. But I think what we can do, and we can allow PM&R to set the example for what other fields can do, is there's no reason it has to live on the website. It can be delivered to people's email. It could be delivered to a phone. It could, you know, there's a million options.
Great. All right. I think last question here from Carter. Do you think adding PM&R career advice and job listing resources to the website would fit the goals of foam?
So in short, yes. And I have a list and a small team of people that I've already designated to kind of tackle a few other things. For instance, on the website, front and center, I have inclusion and adaptive resources. And I specifically wanted that on the front page because I think that's what we're about, and these are our patients that we're representing. But there's a lot more that I would see that expanding into. Something like career advice, job listings, I think that also is relevant, but everything is timing, and it may or may not be something that foam PM&R ends up doing, just because if you try to do everything all at once, then you kind of just don't have a product of what you are. So I think it's important to just tackle what it is that we're trying to do really, really well. But it's definitely, you know, I would love to speak to you further if you have an idea about it. You know, I'm honestly open to anything, you know, for it, and I would like it to be, you know, a team sport. So you know, reach out to me and let me know what you're thinking. And maybe it would be good to do it next week already. Maybe, you know, you might have a really good idea that I'm just not thinking of.
Awesome. So we asked all of our guests on our show this, John. If you were not a PM&R physician, what would you be?
If I was not a PM&R physician, I would probably be a music teacher. Not you know, not necessarily like, hey, like we meet once a week to teach you how to play guitar, but more of a philosophical kind of instruction. I took a couple of courses in college on music and music theory. Yeah, exactly. Music theory and structures and all these different things. I really like music. I play a couple instruments, not well enough to make the answer to the question I would be a world famous guitarist. But I think I would like to do that. And I would still try to be teaching, you know, if I wasn't doing this with PM&R online, I think I would be trying to spread, you know, music to other people. I like to teach. So and I really love PM&R. So that's what, you know, I want to teach PM&R and spread PM&R, but I would take a different hobby or passion of mine and try to do the same thing.
I think that's amazing.
Yep.
Oh, thank you.
We both love you, if you can't tell already. So
I appreciate it. I love you guys and the work that you're doing too. Honestly, it's like I mentioned before, you know, it's I've had this conversation with a lot of people already. The impact that your presence on Instagram and on YouTube and then doing these things is having on the field. I think that when we, you know, 5 years from now, look back to what happened after coronavirus, I think this is going to be a really big mark in, you know, PM&R's history. So I think you're really changing the game and spreading a lot of good things to everybody.
honestly, yeah, I got a little teary. So much really positive feedback, and we appreciate you guys, like the kindest words. We really just do this out of the kindness of our heart. You know, we don't get paid for it. We just love working with each other. We love rehab. So, and we have a lot of opinions. So we're happy to pass that information along. So we do the support that everyone has given us. It's been really awesome. And it keeps us, we're like, oh, what do we got to do next? Because we meet once a week and we're like, okay, let's think about what we can do. So it's fun. Yep. It does. It really does.
Well, this was awesome. I love our field. Go PM&R. We have a great group of people in our field here. So thank you so much, John, for joining us today. I know you had mentioned that you love to teach and you love PM&R. You also have, you briefly mentioned this, but you have your own YouTube channel. So you guys should check that out. Dr. Jonathan Reisman on YouTube. It's all things PM&R. So I think everyone knows that you're on Twitter and Instagram. So is that the best way for kind of students or residents to reach out if they're interested in contributing?
Sure. Originally, honestly, I was going to leave it on the website, just reach out on Instagram or
Okay.
Twitter. Like I wasn't even going to make an email account for it because I actually enjoy communicating via their channels better. But like I mentioned, not everybody is using Twitter or Instagram.
Right.
So I do have an email account as well. It's physiatry@foampmr.com. And so you can reach out there also if you're not, but honestly, again, it's whatever your preference is, whatever works. And I think that's kind of the idea with the journal too. And with, you know, who I'm looking for and what kind of team I want to build. It's people do their best work when they're doing things that they enjoy and with the rules that they want to play by. So however you like to communicate, that's going to be the most effective communication. Is, you know, no one likes a situation where you're told, where you tell somebody, I want you to do this, 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 and then it doesn't happen. So communicate however you want, whatever your ideas are. I'm sure they're awesome. Send them at me and we'll try to make it work.
We'll tag you and put your email address when we do the post as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure to follow us, you know, on the Virtual Physiatry Mentors on Instagram, on Facebook, on our YouTube page, as well as our podcast. All of these are turned into podcasts for our boy Hayden. So we're on Spotify and iTunes. This week we have our Instagram takeovers coming up. So we have UNC on Monday, we have Northwell, New York on Thursday, and University of Puerto Rico on Friday. So we look forward to seeing what their programs have to offer. Every program's been doing such a great job so far. It's been really fun to get to know the residents. And next week we have kind of a special. We're not going to have a guest. It's just going to be Sheena and I. We have a lot of new followers, so we kind of just we're going to call it Shooting the Shit with Sheena. With Shanisha. Shooting the Shit with Shanisha. So we'll just talk about we'll talk about things that like you might want to ask about residency, but maybe you shouldn't ask, and give you just some little pearls about being early career. We can talk money and things, fun stuff. So, and we'll have an open live question so you guys can ask us whatever questions you want. So, yeah, we'll see you guys then. Okay.
Have a great week.
Bye.